Island dares you to come face to face with the Beast. The Beast. 7,400 feet of unrestrained terror. In a 70-mile-per-hour attack on your senses, the Beast throws you screaming through 3 tunnels, takes you higher than any other coaster. Come face to face with the Beast. The Beast. The biggest, baddest, longest, fastest coaster.
Perhaps one of the most legendary coasters of all time, Kings Island's The Beast opened as the world's longest full-circuit roller coaster in April 1979 to rave reviews. While it was once considered an enthusiast mecca and one of the best in the world, it has kind of had a bit of a downfall in public opinion as of late. Though it has since lost the world's longest record, the impact that this ride would have on the industry snowballed into perhaps the most interesting budding rivalry of the coaster industry 45 years later. Though many wooden roller coaster manufacturers exist today, there was kind of a lull during the boom of steel coasters. In fact, Coasterpedia has a total of 1 manufacturer with any information about them that was active during this period, that being Philadelphia Toboggan Coasters, or PTC. Kings Island either did not want to work with PTC or they couldn't afford to, so they rolled up their sleeves and made the Beast from scratch, all in-house. The piece of the puzzle that would begin the snowball downhill is the man who oversaw the design and building of this now iconic ride, Kings Island's Director of Construction, Maintenance, and Engineering, Charles Dinn. If you're a roller coaster enthusiast, you probably know exactly who Charles Dinn is. If you just got into this video and aren't a roller coaster enthusiast or are a new enthusiast who's still learning the ropes, first off, welcome. This is a wonderful hobby and I genuinely hope you enjoy it. Secondly, Charles Dinn would go on just 4 short years later to found one of the most poorly aged wooden coaster manufacturers in history, the Dinn Corporation. When I say poorly aged, only 4 out of 11 ground-up coasters that Dinn designed and manufactured still stand in their original form today, and even 2 of those you could argue are not in their original form, but we'll get back to that in a bit. Though Dinn would build 11 new coasters in less than a decade, they simply could not leave the lights on and officially went out of business in 1991 after building the massive Mean Streak at Cedar Point. Though the manufacturer was a flash in the pan in terms of how long they lasted, their legacy would live on later that year when Charles' daughter Denise would open Custom Coasters International, or CCI, with her initial team being a large amount of key personnel from Dinn. CCI is a manufacturer that I personally find quite interesting. They built 34 coasters over the course of just 11 years, with 29 of them still operating in their original form to this day, and one of those is expected to reopen this year. It is insane what they did. However, after filing for bankruptcy in 2002, no attempt at rebuilding was ever made due to the fact that Denise had since divorced her husband, who she worked very closely with at CCI. CCI was just another stepping stone in the industry, however, as the company launched 2 other companies that are still around to this day, those being the Gravity Group and Great Coasters International, or GCI for short. I want to breeze past the Gravity Group quickly, as they were not extremely impactful in this part of the story, but they do play a part later on. The Gravity Group built their first coaster in 2005, and with it they developed a solid reputation of, if you can dream it, we can build it type. Their ambitious first coaster was Hades, now called Hades 360 at Mount Olympus up in Wisconsin. The insane thing that this ride featured was a tunnel right after the first drop, but not just any tunnel. Hades travels all the way under the parking lot before popping out and up into a little island in the middle of the lot. This was an insane project at the time, and it would become even more insane in 2013 when the Gravity Group came back out to install a 360 roll, hence the name change. Gravity Group would go on to make 30 coasters so far, and they are still in operation. They are one of the only 2 manufacturers who are able to build inverting wooden roller coasters. While the Gravity Group rose up from the ashes of CCI much like CCI had from Dinn before, GCI was founded just a few years into CCI's run in the industry. In 1994, CCI designer Mike Boodley left the company and formed a partnership with Claire Hayne Jr., a very well-known coaster designer at the time, and they began GCI together. Their first project came around just 2 years later when Hershey Park contracted them to manufacture the now defunct Wildcat. Wildcat would be a huge part of GCI history, as well as have a large impact on their business in the 2020s, but I'm getting ahead of myself there. After Wildcat, GCI would go on to build Roar at both Six Flags America and Discovery Kingdom, only one of which still stands today. All of the coasters that I mentioned so far ended up being notoriously rough, but very early on in their lifespan they were considered elite coasters. So elite, in fact, that when representatives from Busch Gardens Tampa rode Wildcat, they immediately knew that they needed a GCI for their next big attraction. This gave birth to Gwazi, a dueling coaster right in the front of the park that does not stand today due to roughness and poor maintenance. The tale of rough GCI coasters honestly goes on for quite a while, and while some of the older coasters are considered great by most enthusiasts, a lot of them would kind of fall into the mid-tier coasters range. This kind of takes a turn in 2017, however, and there's a reason that I feel like a lot of enthusiasts overlook, that being Skyline Attractions. Skyline Attractions is a GCI spin-off company that was founded in 2014. While they're technically two separate companies, Olivia, the PR director at GCI, personally told me that Skyline is their sister company, and one look at Skyline's website will confirm this easily. It's plastered with blurbs about how they design GCI products, engineer their coasters, and pitch them concepts. There's nothing wrong with this at all. It's just an important detail in explaining why I'm mostly lumping GCI and Skyline into one company for the sake of this video, though I will refer to them separately occasionally. Okay, now that that's out of the way, Mystic Timbers opened in 2017 to amazing reviews, which is generally considered uncharacteristic for GCI. The airtime was strong, it was an out and back layout, and by most people's definitions, it was an S-tier coaster. Was this a one-off for the company, or was this a new trend? Well, that was the first project that GCI utilized Skyline for. Ever since then, Skyline has assisted with every single GCI project, most of which have had great reception. It seems like Skyline is the ace in the hole that GCI needed to push their designs that much closer to world-class attractions. While the innovations that Skyline brought to GCI seemed impressive with their early work together, 2019 would show how strong the pair of companies could be acting as one. Designed by Skyline and implemented by GCI, Titan Track debuted at GCI's 25th anniversary party at Fun Spot America during IAAPA 2019. This weld-free steel track would open up a whole new range of possibilities for GCI to offer its customers. Not only would it allow for retracking wooden coasters with steel to create reliably smooth ride experiences on a budget, it would also allow for inversions, reprofiling steeper drops and tighter turns, as well as creating ground-up steel coasters that can compete in the steel coaster space. The track was designed to be modular enough that it could be added to any wooden coaster regardless of the existing design and train model, with a very easy install process for relatively cheap. Unfortunately, with this debuting in 2019 and the pandemic hitting in 2020, it would be longer than anticipated before GCI could get any of this revolutionary track onto a coaster. While they were stuck waiting for the pandemic to end, let's go back in time to look at another manufacturer. Briefly heading back all the way to 2001, a small company called Rocky Mountain Construction, or RMC, was founded. They quickly carved out a place for themselves in the amusement industry, but not by doing what they're famous for now. For the first 10 years or so, RMC was primarily what their name implied, a construction company. They would be hired by parks or subcontracted by manufacturers to build new attractions, including CCI, who actually preferred to use RMC to build their attractions. However, in 2009, founder Fred Grubb sought to change this. He got together with industry legend Alan Schilke to develop quite the unique type of track. Based on the I-beam due to their construction roots, their new I-box track was designed to be put on old wooden coasters to improve their ride experience, as well as allow for more intense new elements and profiling. Even though they had this amazing new track type, they still needed someone to sell it to, and 2 short years later, they got that buyer. Since RMC conversions of wooden coasters usually cost less than a ground-up coaster, Six Flags was the perfect chain to give RMC a chance. Opening in 2011, RMC got their big break with the conversion of Texas Giant, a wooden coaster built by none other than the Din Corporation. Though the new layout was fairly tame compared to what would come down the line from RMC, it was just enough to get their foot in the door in the design and manufacturing industry and start forming new relationships. Six Flags came back to them for a conversion of Iron Rattler in 2013, however that year marked a special one for the company for a very different reason. Due to the nature of their business, RMC kinda built their name on a limited commodity, that being wooden roller coasters. If their entire business model revolved around taking old coasters and adding their I-box track to make a new masterpiece, eventually the well would run dry. Because of this, RMC has taken a crack at a few ways to generate revenue independent of their conversions. 2013 saw their first crack at this with the debut of the Topper Track Woodies. Topper Track was supposed to be RMC's spin on the traditional wooden style. Featuring wooden track with custom steel top and custom trains, these coasters could do all sorts of things that wooden coasters rarely did, like insane drops and inversions. RMC is the second of the 2 aforementioned manufacturers that can make inverting wooden roller coasters. I'm not going to look at every single RMC coaster, but these 2 coaster models kept them pumping out new rides every year for quite a while. Skipping forward to 2016, we have our first collision of GCI and RMC with the I-box conversion of Roar at Discovery Kingdom. I personally believe that this is likely when the idea for Titan Track started getting thrown around over at Skyline and GCI. As a business, GCI likely knew that they were losing out on a lot of potential revenue from track work, refurbishments, and train sales by allowing their old and aging coasters to be sold off to RMC, so they had to do something about it. 2018 saw the opening of the first RMC single rail coaster, a concept which put riders in a single file line to tear through a small and very compact layout with only one rail for the track. A few clones of these have been made so far, as well as a couple original layouts, and they are generally considered very good by coaster enthusiasts. These were a hit, and the demand was very high according to Scott from RMC. A collision between GCI and RMC would happen again in 2018 when Skyline contracted RMC to manufacture the single rail track for their new model of coasters called the Skywarp. Though this ride opened in 2018, it was closed before 2020 and has since been demolished. I never had a chance to ride it, but I've heard that upon opening, it was extremely shaky to the point of pain for riders. This model was never made again. However, a modified version of this model opened in 2021 and still used the RMC single rail track, though I wonder how long that will last. Back on the RMC timeline, another GCI coaster was up on the chopping block in 2019, that being the Dueling Gwazi at BGT. This meant that 2 out of the 4 original GCI coasters had been taken down, but any animosity from that would be outclassed by present day, so let's pick back up with GCI post-pandemic. In order to promote Titan Track as a viable option, GCI sold the product at an incredibly small promotional price to the few parks that desperately needed it, going as far as to gift 300 feet of it to Six Flags Darien Lake. This promotional deal went over fantastically, and the results of the new track spoke for themselves, so interest flooded in from parks all over the world. Unfortunately for GCI, they could not maintain that promotional price for another year, and some parks got serious sticker shock, resulting in lost business. The most famous example of this was none other than GCI's first coaster, Wildcat, at Hershey Park. It has been known for quite a long time that GCI lost the bid to redo Wildcat to RMC, but it wasn't up until IAAPA 2022 where I seriously knew how hard they took that loss. I asked Dean Ross about it directly, and his face just dropped. As a high-up at the company and a project manager at that, it was instantly clear to me that he and the rest of the company took losing the bid to heart. He told me that it hurt them, and they thought it would have been so cool to have put their first Titan Track full retracking or reworking to be done on their first ever coaster. I believe that losing this bid put a fire under GCI to start beating RMC at their own game. Take a look at a few clips from this interview with Claire that I did on the show floor. Shout out to his daughter Olivia for helping me set up the interview. She was the best.
We're running, we're in high gear right now. We have so much going on this year, and it's a very big year for us for a 23 opening. I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the new zinger going in this year at Worlds of Fun. I'm very happy by it. And what the future is bringing, which I can't really say right this second.
And I heard you guys are working heavily in moving forward your Titan Track.
Yes.
And I know you put Titan Track. My home park is Darien Lake.
Yes.
So I've had firsthand experience with Titan Track. I've heard you're possibly expanding Titan Track at Darien Lake.
I can't say.
That's completely fair. Personally, I hope so. I've ridden it. It's a masterpiece.
You will be surprised this year.
Excellent. I'm gonna take that as a good thing. Do you have any other projects about Titan Track that you can hint at, throw a bone out there?
We have another spot, another ride this year that we'll be getting Titan Track, a little over 500 feet. I just can't say where it's at, but it's in North America.
Excellent.
I am installing another 300 feet on 2 different rides over in Europe right now as we speak. We'll start installing it next week, actually. And I have another park over there that I'm putting a small section in, which we'll be installing it in January.
Excellent. Sounds great. I'm really excited about your future here at GCI. Any full Titan Track things in the work of any sorts you could tease at?
Yes. I had a meeting yesterday with the client, and because of the dollar rate right now against the euro, so that tells you it's in Europe. Because of that situation, the budget is out of line. So the plan is we're going to regroup and go back at this in April, May, and then it will be the very first full GCI steel track on a new ride.
Would that be with a wooden frame or a steel frame?
Wood frame.
Excellent. So you heard it here, guys. GCI has been talking about hybrids.
It's clear to me that GCI is swinging for the fences in terms of wooden hybrid coaster game, but that is only part of RMC's business strategy. In the mid-2010s, when they developed the aforementioned single rail coasters, they had the Raptor and T-Rex models. As of now, 5 Raptors have been built, however no T-Rexes have. Here's what Scott from RMC had to say about the T-Rex when I got to interview him on the show floor at IAAPA as well. I also recommend you watch the full interview linked in the description. It's a great watch with a lot of exclusive info.
Can you say anything about single rail over 300 feet, T-Rex or a Raptor or anything?
We would like one. I'm sure a lot of people would. We'll see what happens. We're still looking for the right interest for the T-Rex track. I think if the right client comes along and the project fits, we'll definitely develop that.
So that's on the park side to come to you? Like you guys are ready to push with that?
We have the concept, and it's possible we might move forward with development, but having someone who's actually interested in it would definitely fuel that development. As for the Raptor, lots of people are interested in the Raptor. They want to do all sorts of crazy things. We'll see what actually happens, but very possible that there's some new Raptor iterations in the near future, yeah.
Clearly, this infamous ride is still in their catalog. However, the Raptor seems to be the direction that RMC will be headed for the foreseeable future. In order to get more information regarding the single rail coasters that Skyline can develop, I reached out to Tyler Mullins to get some clarification as to what their development is capable of. The idea that sparked this video was my initial reaction to Fiesta Texas's announcement of their Skyline Racing Pescetti coaster. My initial reaction was, oh cool, on to the next thing. But with Over Georgia announcing a clone of that yet to be built coaster, Skyline had my interest. The first question I asked Tyler was whether or not they planned on building mostly clones of this ride, or if a park can order a custom layout should they want it. It turns out that this racing coaster model is just one of 6 off-the-shelf layouts that parks, zoos, and family entertainment centers of all sizes can choose from, but on top of that they can also order custom layouts. The big change with the new Skyline single rails as opposed to the ones they have previously installed is that the track is designed and built in-house. Their days of contracting RMC to use that track is over. Which makes sense. How can you directly compete with a company if you're contracting the exact product you're competing against? I made sure to ask Tyler if the single rail in-house track was scalable past the size of children's coasters, and he confirmed that Skyline will be making compact single rail thrill coasters. This combined with the Titan track that they helped design and pitch to GCI means to me that GCI and Skyline will be gearing up to take a bull run at RMC's market share. This brings into question whether or not RMC sees GCI as a threat to their future business. In order to answer that, I need to introduce you to 208 Retrack. Take it away again, Scott.
First of all, I see your 208 retracts over there. Yep. Can you tell me a bit? I feel like that kind of slid under the radar for you guys. Obviously, you're known for your iBox and your Raptor. Can you tell me the use case for that, the structural stuff, all that kind of stuff?
Sure. So it's really similar to our iBox track. We're making it out of a weathering steel, so we don't necessarily have to coat it. So that's one advantage, save some of the cost on the coating of the track. But we're just using the 208 track to retrack old wood rides. So we wouldn't be doing any new maneuvers. It would be the same ride profile, but with a steel track.
So say a park calls you up and they say, this rough old coaster we can't afford an iBox. You say, we have 208 we can throw on there, increase your lifespan for a lower price.
Exactly. It helped them out a lot on the maintenance, smooth out the ride. And we're even able to look at some of the banking and stuff when we redo the ride. Say there's an area that's got high guide wheel loading. We're able to change the banking a little bit and kind of smooth out some of that stuff so that we're loading the road wheel and hopefully make a better ride experience. But the intent is just to keep the same ride profile.
Cool. Off camera, I asked Scott, is this basically your competitor for Titan Track? And Scott confirmed with a simple yes. This is something I genuinely was not expecting to hear from an RMC employee. For over 10 years in the industry, RMC has been the company that pushes the envelope in every way, and the company that other companies try to emulate with their design, the one that no one could touch. For the first time ever, they're having to defend their territory and spend R&D budget to compete in a space that they comfortably held for quite a while. I think it would be difficult to argue, at least from RMC's perspective, that GCI is definitely set to have a big splash in the industry with the assistance of their sister company and close partner Skyline Attractions. To head back to the title of this video, whether or not GCI can defeat RMC remains to be seen. I'm heavily invested in the future of both of these companies and will be watching closely over the next decade or so to see what happens. I'm very interested in what you guys think, so comment your thoughts down below. If you made it this far into the video, please consider liking and subscribing as it helps the channel out more than you will ever know. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Josh from Station Wait. Have a great day.